Hello, everyone. Welcome to Online Presenters, a virtual advanced Toastmasters Club where we accelerate communication, presentation, and leadership skills. Tonight's theme is National Old Stuff Day. We had a great time in our meet and greet. You're free to come about 25 minutes before we actually start our day. And it's a reminder to examine what may have become antiquated, whether it's a routine or a habit, and you'll hear from others in just a moment. Our guests are here or will be here, and we will be delighted if you eventually join us. Please know that membership is open to current or former Toastmasters who have completed at least 6 speeches. And if you are experienced, you can apply after delivering a short speech. All applications are subject to club approval. We're a global club. Please be mindful of language that may be antiquated or culturally not sensitive as we support one another's growth. And remember, this meeting is being recorded. Check the chat if you prefer to opt out. And finally, kindly mute your microphone when you're not speaking. So let's leave some same old behind and begin. Please help me welcome our club president, Joni Laidlaw. Welcome, Joni.
Thank you, Sunny, for that welcome. Today's meeting is going to be a bit antiquated because it's National Stuff Day. But before we go into the old stuff, we're going to do some new stuff. We have a prospective member that we get to vote in. Now, I'm going to ask David if he can create one of those handy dandy polls for us to drop in the chat. And while we do that, I'm going to ask our vice president of membership to come forward to lead the session, just so that we can get to know Jenny a bit while David gets time to create the poll.
Okay, you put me on the spot a little bit, Joni, because I don't have the new member induction set up just yet. Usually I save that for the vote. So, Jenny, you are speaking today and giving your icebreaker speech, correct?
Correct.
Correct. And do you want to tell the club a little bit about yourself, Jenny?
Okay, yes. In these past 2 meetings, I said that I'm originally from Colombia, and I came to the United States with my husband and my family, and earned my Bachelor of Science with major in chemistry. And I just developed my career here in the United States. And also, I like to improve my public speaking, apply to my career. And I have been a member of Toastmasters in 2016, 2017 with David Carr. He was my mentor. And so I contacted him and he just let me know about this club. And that works for me for the time and the modality, which is Zoom.
Awesome. So we are so glad you're here, Jenny. Now, Joni, I don't have Jenny's speech introduction.
Oh, well, we're not going to do the speech introduction. If everyone just looks over into the chat right now, once you're a member, you can click on the link. As it states, you'll have to sign in, but you can vote whether or not Jenny would be included or become a member, because we do have quorum here today. So we get to decide if she becomes one of. How long will you need to tell us if we have hit enough? David is our handy dandy vote counter, and he'll explain exactly how that works later on. But David, have we hit enough responses?
Well, I'm sorry, we're just getting started, I think. So how many do we need?
Well, we are at quorum, so if at least half of us vote, then if more than half of us say yes, then it's a go.
We
have
have
more.
14 people participating.
Okay.
So if more than 7 of us say yes,
I'll
we
let you
are
know in a few
good
minutes.
to go. All right. So with that, I will continue on with explaining how our meeting is going to work. We have a Toastmaster of the day who has a very interesting hat on. Now, what I'm going to do is ask our Toastmaster of the day, before we call Jenny to our speech, just to refer to me so that I can let us know and welcome her into the club. I know the answer is going to be yes, she's amazing. With that, I will now be turning over to our Toastmaster of the day. Now, if he has anything to say about it, and as he has stated, he's been in Toastmasters since the dawn of time. I'm not sure if he chose this topic because he thinks himself antiquated or he just liked or refer to old stuff. We disagree on the manual thing, but we can agree to disagree there. But he gets the opportunity to let us know about old stuff. Please help me welcome Jim Barber.
Thank you, Madam President. My fellow Toastmasters, our newest Toastmaster, I hope, Ginny. We're going to have an interesting meeting to answer your questions, Joni. No, I did not choose the theme. Graham, I know, Graham is, I'll reserve further comments on that. Graham selected the theme. It is an actual real thing. National Old Stuff Day is an actual name, is an actual date. It's official, voted on March the 2nd. And so the theme of National Old Stuff Day was just kind of a natural thing. What is not necessarily an automatic thing would be the selection of me to be Toastmaster this evening. However, we'll go into that some other point. I guess you might say I am antiquated. It depends upon your point of view. When I joined Toastmasters, as I indicated before, there was no pathways. Everything was done from a manual. There was no email. There was not a Toastmasters website because there were no websites. Consequently, there was no social media, no way to market through in the conventional ways other than through the postal service or something like that. There was no Zoom, so you could not hold hybrid meetings. You could not hold online meetings like we are doing right now. So that's how Toastmasters was when I joined. And you can imagine trying to hold a meeting, a simple meeting like that in those conditions today, and you'll have an idea why maybe selection of me as the Toastmaster for National Old Stuff Day was actually appropriate. With that, let's move into the meeting itself. The first thing that I want to do is to introduce our tip of the day, which is going to be given by Dr. Andrew Bird. I have no idea what Dr. Andy's tip of the day is going to be, but I am positive that it's going to be fascinating. So Andy, take it away.
Well, thank you very much, Jim. I see that my voice is turned on, so you should all be able to hear that. Let me just tell you a short story, and that is that most people know that there's the left brain and the right brain, or actually the other way around. And left brain is a lot of the logical thought pattern, and the right brain is what we call the creative. When we come to Toastmasters meetings, we have sharing of stories and verbal activities. But there's a whole right side of your brain that we may not be taking advantage of. And I'm going to show you how that would work out. So I'm going to first go to share, and hopefully this will work out here, here, and here, and share. Okay. Be able to hear All right.
One step on the stage, my hands say they're afraid. Paper trembling like the past. All the words I never asked. Rows of faces in the dark, waiting for a tiny spark. Can they hear this beating heart if I choose to stop? So I tell you, the let my soul see through the pain. Feel it bleeding. Every word is breaks and we both standing. I'm connecting through this story and just to say I don't have perfect lines, just a bruise beneath the shine. Lonely nights and quiet shame. Layers simple frame. Then a smile and a face. Told so it's
We've, I think the audio is breaking up, Andy.
standing, I'm connecting through this story. Starts to sing.
Andy, we're only getting fragments.
Okay, that's enough of that. This is actually one of 6 songs that I've done. And what I'm trying to share with you is that using your creative side, there are now 3 main programs that will help you create song and music. This one was with sumo.com. There's another one that I'm blocking the name of. And the last one is part of Gemini's AI program called Lyrica, which also generates music. So generative AI in the mode of creative music is now available. And for people that said, I don't have a creative bone in my body, I don't know how to do any of this stuff, it's fun because now you can become a songwriter and developer of music and use it as part of a background for the slides that you have from your club or slides that you take at a contest and then play a whole movie. It is getting very aggressive amongst all the companies how AI is moving forward. Camtasia for movie making, as well as Canva does movies, and there are 4 others that are doing movies. And you can create all these things, and you now have background music that you create on top of your pictures. And so that's just part of the creative process and helps you communicate because that's what we're all about, communication. So this is another way of communicating outside of what we normally think of as communication. Uh, and I was thinking of Annie just the other day because I was on YouTube and saw Terry Fader, and he did something amazing. He did his ventriloquism like Annie did, but he did 18 different puppet impressions. He did the song We Are the World, and he had puppets for each of the 18 characters, and he sang it in their voices. I thought that was absolutely amazing. So something for you to look at YouTube on. But that's what the tip of the day is. The tip of the day is you can create music and make a connection because music helps to create emotions and connections with individuals. That's it. That's my tip of the day.
And that's a great tip. Thank you, Andy. Very timely, very pertinent, and very important. There are several people indicating in the chat that they prefer live music or live art as compared to AI generated music and AI generated art. And whereas that can be true, there's another part of the issue, which is copyrights. You can like another song very much, but you can't use it. If you don't own the rights to that song or to that art or something like that, using it is a violation of copyright, and you can be suffering great penalties for doing that. Whereas there is no apparent copyright that we know of, I think, that has been defined for AI generated music and artwork. So that
So
kind
that's the
of
one good
changes
thing
everything.
about that's the one good thing about both of those programs, that they have copyright part of their process. So
Oh,
you can create on there and know that what you're doing is copyrightable.
and you own the copyright.
And I own the copyright. I've done
Interesting.
6 songs
Okay.
already. It's getting very exciting.
Wow. It's an interesting world. Yeah. And thank you very much, Andy. Appreciate that. All right. Any questions for Andy? Then in that case, let's move forward with our prepared presentations. Before I do that, though, we have a team of people involved in this. It's not just me doing it alone. And let's look at the different people and see what they are doing. Let's start with our timer. Annie. I think it's Annie, not Susie, right?
It is Annie today. That's
all right. Annie is our timer this evening. Annie, would you please explain what you will be doing as timer? And if you could, then please raise your hand so that you will go up into the upper left-hand corner and we can spot you.
I can do that indeed. Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. I am your timer. I will be timing the speeches. I believe both of them are 5 to 7 minutes. Is that correct? That's what I'm going with, 5 to 7, and I will time the evaluations. That will be
one of them. Yenny's speech will be an icebreaker, so that'll be 4 to 6.
Jenny, is that correct? You're an icebreaker today, 4 to 6 minutes?
Yes, I think 6 minutes.
Lovely, no worries. Then at 4 minutes, I will display a green, at 5, a yellow, and at 6, a red, and extrapolate that to the 5 to 7 minute speech. And the evaluations will be 2 to 3 minutes. That is essentially what I will be doing, and hopefully in conjunction with the Toastmaster of the evening, your evening, my day, we can keep the meeting on time. And in 1 second, I will raise my hand to put myself in the left-hand corner. Thank you very much, Jim.
Thank you very much, Annie. Well said and well explained. Thank you. All right. We also have an counter this evening. Sherry Blake, you are the Wizard of Oz for this meeting. Would you please tell anybody that might need to know what you're going to be doing this evening?
Absolutely. So I am the odd counter, as Jim mentioned, and I'm going to be tracking our crutch words, our filler words, such as maybe too many ands. So I'm listening out for these words, and then I will report to everyone at the end of the meeting. Thank you so much. Back to you, Jim Barber.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sherry. Appreciate that. Krithika, I believe you stepped forward to do double duty and be our grammarian this evening. Is that correct? Would you please take a moment then to tell everybody who might not know or might not remember what you're going to be doing as the grammarian?
Thank you, Jim. As a grammarian for today, I'll be stepping in to record the good phrases and the mediocre phrases of word usage, especially usage of English native to American accent. My other job is to introduce the word of the day. The word of the day is antiquated. Antiquated means old-fashioned or outdated. I've just linked in the chat about the usage of the word antiquated. I prefer you all to use the word and then get benefited as being a Toastmaster. Over to you, Jim.
Thank you, Krithika. And I will, just to make sure that everybody, that it got registered, antiquated. There, I've said it. Okay. Our watcher this evening. This is a role that is somewhat unique to online presenters. Allie, you're going to be our watcher this evening. Could you please tell people what you're going to be doing?
Yes, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day. As online presenters, it's very important on how we show up in our screen when we present to others. Actually, that is my day job, pretty much presenting online. So I will be keeping an eye on all of you beautiful people on the board today, looking for things that stand out, looking for how we're centered in the screen, use of our hands, props, etc. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day.
Great, thank you, Allie. Our chat monitor, another role that is somewhat unique to online presenters. Our chat monitor this evening is Dr. Sunny Fridge. Dr. Sunny, what will you be doing this evening?
Well, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day, fellow Toastmasters and guests, as chat monitor, I will be keeping track of the few of the most helpful, encouraging, or humorous posts throughout the meeting. Definitely don't stay too antiquated. And when called upon, I'll give a 1-minute report highlighting the most noteworthy items placed in the chat during this meeting. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Sunny. All right, and finally, our vote counter this evening, David Carr. David, I know vote counter is, well, I don't know, people automatically think of you when they think of counting votes, just like they think of me when they think of antiquated. So would you please remind everybody what the vote counter will be doing?
Well, the vote counter will be counting the votes, remarkably enough. I do use this handy dandy web tool to do that, where I post a link in the chat. And just to show you a little bit of the behind the scenes of that, I can post any particular question. I can post the table topic speakers as they come up. Obviously, those are not scheduled in advance. But what I did for Jenny is I posted, shall Jenny be allowed to join our club? I checked the box that said require signature, and I could also check the box that said yes, no, or abstain, although I forgot to do that actually initially. But this is how I set up the votes. And then to see the vote results, I can go into the vote count. And I think I can show you this. This is not super secret. These are all yes votes because everybody wants Jenny as part of our club. Woohoo! Normally, I don't show the behind the scenes of who voted for what. And actually, usually I don't even see the names of who voted for what. But this is supposed to be more of an official thing that could be recorded in the minutes. So that's why it was set up that way. For the table topics, when we get to table topics, I will just come in here and choose the people who are selected to give table topics answers, and that will become the ballot for that particular vote. So that's probably more detailed than you ever wanted to know. But if you are ever called on to be the vote counter in this club, this is a handy dandy tool. And I do it because I find it horribly confusing to deal with that through private chat, where I'm getting private chat messages from a dozen different people and I have to tally it all up. I like computers to do the math for me because my grasp of basic addition is a little bit shaky. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, David. And I don't think you have to worry about that. I love your vote counting tool, and I think you're going to be in charge of that for a long, long time to come. Jenny, it's official. I hope I'm not spilling the beans, but I saw there on the vote count that most people, in fact, I think it was unanimous. Everybody said, let's have Jenny come in. So welcome to our newest member to Online Presenters.
Thank you.
All right. And before I proceed any further, I need to do something I should have done before the meeting started, but I'm old, so I forget to do these things. Jenny, please pronounce your last name for me so I know I have it right.
Ayala.
Ayala. Okay, that's what I was going with, but I'm glad it's official now. Okay, then let's get started. Jenny, are you ready? Our first speaker this evening is giving what I think is to be considered the all-time best kind of speech that we can have, the icebreaker. I love icebreakers. And Jenny is giving her first presentation to online presenters this evening. Please help me welcome, giving her icebreaker, our newest member, Jenny Ayala. I messed it up. I'm sorry. Ayala. Did I right? Okay,
Adala.
Jenny Ayala. Take it away, Jenny.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Jenny Ayala, and I like to start by taking you on a small journey to where my story begins. I was born in Quindío, Colombia, South America, a beautiful region in the heart of the coffee country. If you've ever seen pictures of Colombia's coffee landscapes, that's my home. Green mountains, rich coffee farms, and the Andes Mountains surrounding everything. We also have the wax palm, and yes, there are volcanoes nearby too. Growing up surrounded by nature, mountains, and that peaceful scenery taught me resilience and appreciation for beauty in hard work, just like coffee growing on steep mountains. As a child and teenager, I was a swimmer. Swimming became more than just a sport for me. It was discipline, focus, and mental strength. I learned early that progress doesn't happen overnight. You improve one lap at a time. The mindset has followed me throughout my life. Later, I pursued my Bachelor of Science with major in chemistry. I've always been curious about how things work, how substances react, how tiny details can change an outcome. Chemistry taught me to think critically and pay attention to detail, which eventually shaped my career path in ways I couldn't have imagined at the time. Shortly after September 11, my life changed in a big way. I moved to the United States, starting over a new country in a new language during a time when the nation was processing trauma was not easy. There were cultural adjustments, language barriers, and moments of doubt. But swimming had already taught me something important. When you feel tired, you don't stop. You just adapt, just breathing and keep moving forward. Over time, I built my professional path and became a forensic scientist. What I love about forensic science is that it combines science with purpose. Every piece of evidence tells a story. Every detail matters. My work allows me to use my chemistry background to serve justice and help my community. It's meaningful and challenging at the same time. Beyond my professional life, I'm also a wife and a proud mother of two daughters. Being a mom has probably been my greatest teacher. It has strengthened my patience, empathy, and leadership skills in ways no degree ever could. My daughters remind me every day my perseverance matters because they are watching. And yes, I'm, I still swim. I'm part of a master's swim team here in Fort Lauderdale. Swimming continues to be my therapy, my stress relief, and my reminder that age doesn't limit growth. In the water, it doesn't matter where you were born, what language you speak, or what title you have. It's just you. You breathe, your breath, and your determination. Right now, one of my personal goals is improving my public speaking in English. English is my second language. And sometimes that still feels intimidating. But I've learned that growth only happens when we step outside our comfort zone. Every time I speak, even if I make mistakes, I'm building confidence, just like building endurance in the pool. If there's one thing my journey has taught me, is this: resilience is built through small, consistent actions, one lab at a time, one class at a time, one break conversation at a time. I'm proud of where I come from, proud of the family I have built, and proud of the path I have created here. And I'm excited to continue growing both professionally and personally. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to learning more about each of you. Back to you to Toastmasters of the Day.
Thank you, Jenny Ayala. I'm going to get that. My tongue is tripping for some reason. Jenny Ayala. Is that right? Jenny Ayala. Okay, I'm going to do that. Terrific icebreaker. Thank you so much, Jenny. But I got to tell you, I am really looking forward to, I hope you're going to give some future speeches on forensic science. I would love to learn more about that. I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you, Jenny.
Great.
All right. We have another speaker this evening. This is not quite so much of a newcomer as Jenny, but he's been around online presenters a little bit. Speaker number 2 is David F. Carr, and I have an introduction for him somewhere. There it is. Okay. He's speaking from the Path Not Set Level 1 Mastering Fundamentals, the title, Single Source of the Truth. As a writer, editor, and analyst in the technology industry who moonlights as a web and app developer, David appreciates the elusive but still worthwhile goal of achieving a single source of truth. Talking about a single source of the truth, please help me welcome David F. Carr.
Thank you, Jim. You know, I actually did eventually put in a path and a project. It might have been just a little bit after you were checking the website trying to find that information, which is actually sort of relevant to the topic of my speech, because I was hunting through pathways. I was trying to find the path that is labeled David pontificates about and rants a little bit about technology, and I couldn't find it. I don't know. I don't know where it was. I was hunting around. I put it down as public relations strategies because this is part of my mission in promoting this whole Toastmasters websites for Toastmasters clubs projects that I've been working on for a number of years. But it is a concept, this single source of truth. This graphic behind me, this is Google Gemini's idea of an illustration of single source of truth. Little bits of truth or truthiness are flying into that central part there, and they are reacting, they're exploding, they're creating tremendous sources of energy, of truthiness. Karthika thought it looked a little bit like the nuclear reactor that goes amiss in Spider-Man 2. This is going back to the Tobey Maguire area. You may remember that the reactor goes crazy. Dr. Octopus, who is originally a kind and thoughtful, philosophical man who quotes poetry, gets little bits of AI chips fused into the back of his neck and goes crazy, goes wild, creates death and destruction all over the place until Spider-Man brings him down. But that's not the topic of my speech. My topic of my speech is the idea of single source of truth. And this is a concept. I was trying to figure out if there is some organization, some person who coined this term, and it seems to be kind of untraceable. But it is a concept in computer science. I probably heard of it most when I was working with Internet World magazine as an editor and later Information Week as an editor, I would hear about this from companies who were selling what were then called business intelligence tools. And these were tools that were supposed to provide you with a dashboard that would give you exactly what was going on within your company. And the idea of single source of truth is we don't want the executives debating the budget, debating their plans, using different spreadsheets that people have set around, is sharing by email, sharing by whatever, and they all have a slightly different version of the spreadsheet, right? So that they are making plans based on different facts, different assumptions, as opposed to having a common understanding of what's going on in the business. And so if you could have a single database that you know is the authority on whether we're about to go broke, that would be a good thing in terms of being able to plan for the future. And later on, I was working, I wrote a book. Hey, this book I wrote, Social Collaboration for Dummies. This idea of collaboration technologies.
You're frozen, David. I don't know if you can hear me or not.
Looks like David is frozen.
We'll give him a moment, see if he comes back.
The truth is floating into the orb, apparently. Processing.
No, I think technology has done it again, of course. Oh, well.
Always.
Yes. Well, if David, okay, he's nope, there he's back. Can you hear me, Dave?
Yes, I can.
Can you pick
I'm
up?
sorry, I dematerialized for a moment there.
That's quite all right.
The transporter beam got intercepted by ion interference. Let's see. The idea at some point was that we would have wikis inside the corporation. We would have social networks, sort of quasi Facebook networks inside the corporation, so that we would understand not only the formal knowledge, but we would understand who has the knowledge within the organization. So when I have a question, who do I need to go to?
I think you're frozen again.
Frozen again.
Somebody doesn't
David?
want us to have this
You'd
knowledge.
think he's in New York and not Florida, right? Snowstorm. It's cold. Brr.
Unless he's just jerking us around. David? No? Okay. Let's give him another few seconds because he may be able to come back like he did before. I'll do a song and dance.
Maybe it's part of his presentation, Jim.
That's true. I think he's back.
Yeah, okay. I saw you all frozen. You saw me as frozen, I think.
Yes.
I'm getting your internet connection is unstable message. Maybe it's the internet user who is unstable. That could be too. At some point in the early 2000s, there was this idea that wikis inside the organization, that social networks inside the organization would not only allow us to locate the codified, structured information about our budget, but we'd also be able to find the people who could answer questions for us. And it was a beautiful idea. It didn't necessarily work out so well. Some of the companies that I wrote about in that book went bust a few years later. Even in the course of doing the reporting that led to that book, I had somebody from Ford tell me, well, the thing about collaboration software is if you give me one more collaboration system, I'll never be able to get my job done. And that's what tends to happen, is that people tack on another collaboration system and another collaboration system. Let me try and bring it back to some of the stuff that I've worked on with Toastmasters to try and achieve some kind of single source of truth. And again, it doesn't always work exactly the way we want it to, but the agenda in some ways, is supposed to be a single source of truth for planning the meeting. So I go down here and I can put in my information. And the Toastmaster of the day is supposed to take the time to look at the agenda before starting the meeting so he knows what the lineup is. And so he can see that David is scheduled to speak. And actually, our agenda is set up to show my information that I put in for my agenda, for my speech introduction. So you should be able to see that. This only happens if people remember to go check it. And so, again, if you're logged in, if you go under agenda, there's this place to see the agenda, to print the agenda, to email out the agenda, and there is also a screen for just the speech introductions. So Yenny, I don't think, had access to this computer system, so we can't fault her for not filling out the form. But this is the idea of single source of truth for planning our meeting, for executing our meeting. If you go into the website and you go to this My Progress screen, I actually have it opened up here, and I have it filtered down to just my speeches. This is a good reminder for me of the speeches that I've given within the last year. Okay, so when I'm realizing that I haven't recorded all these things in Pathways, well, again, single source of truth, that might be a problem because Pathways, of course, is the official source of truth. And it's helpfully logged me out of the system so I can't see this stuff right now. But Pathways is the official source of truth where I have to take the unofficial source of truth from our club, but at least I have a record of it when I'm recording it in Pathways. That's the goal. I'll wrap there. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, David. Thank you. And I love the way that you gave a real world illustration of what you're talking about, a single source of truth, because you did have your pathways level and the path and all that sort of thing filled out in the online presenters database. However, I read your introduction off of the email that you sent me a little bit earlier, and so we didn't have a single source of truth that we were getting the information from, and I'm sure you did that on purpose to illustrate the problem that we are doing. Now, that completes our prepared speeches portion. Our timer, Annie Martin, you were a little bit challenged on this one because, well, timing it was a little bit difficult, but as long as you were doing it, how did our speakers do it time-wise?
Yes, I've just put them in the chat, Mr. Toastmaster. You. Jenny, 5:27, David, 7:37, and David, please know I did. Every time you disappeared into the ether, I stopped the timing and I allowed you a bit of extra time, so I did my very best by you, but you still creeped slightly over. But how disjointing for you to not be there. Well, you thought we weren't there, but it was you. Well, who knows? But yeah, that's my report.
And a great report it is. Thank you, Annie. And fooled you. Okay. Now let's see. Vote counting. That was the next thing to do. Fortunately, it doesn't really matter whether David was in time or not because we don't vote on the icebreaker. We consider an icebreaker presentation winning right there by its very nature. So Jenny wins the icebreaker presentation and David wins the best speaker presentation. No need to vote. However, if David wants to really use his super handy tool, you can put that in the chat monitor if you want to do that. While you are doing that, we're going to move forward to table topics. You've heard from him before. You're going to hear from him again. Please welcome our table topics master this evening, Dr. Andrew Byrne. Andy, take it away.
Thank you very much, Jim. The word of the day was antiquated. And as we move into our new month of March, we can remember that there were a whole bunch of holidays that happened in February and holidays that happened in March. And some of them were antiquated. One holiday that was antiquated is Purim, which began tonight and goes till tomorrow. Who has heard of Purim before? Okay. For those that have not heard about Purim. Purim is a holiday that is very similar to many other Jewish holidays that basically can be summed up in this way. They wanted to kill us. We survived. Let's eat. And that's basically how the structure works. This goes back to an area that we're in the news right now, Persia. And it was during that time, many thousands of years ago, that the king of Persia did not like the Jews, who wanted to kill everybody. And in fact, he didn't like his wife very much either. So he killed her and was searching for a new beauty to be his wife, who turned out to be Esther, a Jew that he didn't know she was Jewish. And the end of the story was that she convinced him not to kill everybody, and everyone was happy and then ate. So there are holidays that mean different things to different people. I know Graham said that he was aware of Purim. I'm not asking anybody else if they're going to celebrate Purim, but let me ask another holiday that might be more relevant. This is around the same time of Lunar New Year's that are celebrated in Asia. Who knows something about Lunar New Year's? Okay, Graham, tell me about Lunar New Year's and how it functions in Australia.
Lunar New Year's, Mr. Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters and guests, also known as Chinese New Year, but that's perhaps politically incorrect, have not generally been celebrated in Australia until the last couple of decades. There has been a diaspora of people from Asia over the centuries that there have been immigrants coming to Australia after the first peoples. But Lunar New Year or Chinese New Year haven't really been celebrated until relatively recent years. This year, of course, is the year of the fire horse. I mean, it's the year of the horse, but there are then 12 different cycles which involve fire and air and earth and water and various other things which I don't fully understand. But this is the year of the fire horse. I am from the year of the fire rooster, of all things. Who knew? What I find really interesting about Lunar New Year as opposed to Chinese New Year, and I did not know this until I went to Vietnam during Lunar New Year, is that across Asia, there are, as I say, 12 different animals, each of whom have a year. And they are the same 12 animals, except in Vietnam, where there is a cat. So there is a year of the cat as opposed to the year of the rat. That's very, very Vietnamese, I have to tell you, but it's essentially the same meanings, but a different animal. But Lunar New Year has been celebrated much more in the last 20 or 30 years, particularly since the arrival of significant numbers of people from Southeast Asia. The boat people, as they were referred to, who came from Vietnam, are a primary example. All I can say, in probably the worst Mandarin accent that you have ever heard, is Happy Year of the Fire Horse, Gung Hei Fat Joy. Mr. Topics Master.
That's wonderful. Great response to that. And we also wish you all health, and Shirley health while she's getting her chemo. So wanted to share that with you too. Another holiday in antiquated times is people celebrated celestial events. 2 days ago, on February 28th, was a celestial event. Who participated in that? See your hands? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? The celestial event 2 days ago was the lining up of 6 planets lined up, and that doesn't happen again to year 2040. And in a day or two, there's going to be a lunar eclipse. There's a famous book known as The Yankee in King Arthur's Court. And some of you may have been familiar with that. I see Sunny recognizing that she is aware of that book. Tell me how that celestial event in ancient times, antiquated times, affected the population.
Are you asking me that? I was just scratching my head.
Well,
Repeat the question,
maybe
please.
the information is pouring out.
Okay, go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead.
there's a lunar eclipse coming in a couple days, and
All
in the
right.
past, in antiquated times, when people looked to the skies and imagined all sorts of things, when there was a solar or lunar eclipse, it had great significance. There were holidays. There were people who were terrified of them. So tell me about your knowledge of ever seeing a lunar eclipse or knowing anybody that celebrated those celestial events.
All right, I'm asking my chat that. So tell me a little about the lunar eclipse for table topics because I don't really know a lot. So let's see what my friendly chat says. It says that a lunar eclipse, as you said, maybe you said this, happens when the Earth moves directly between the sun and the moon and it casts the shadow on the moon instead of disappearing. Now, I probably saw one when I was a little girl. At least I know I saw something in the sky. But there is something also that they call it the blood moon. It's a red glow that happens because the sunlight bends through Earth's atmosphere, according to my chat. And unlike a solar eclipse, a lunar eclipse is safe to watch with the naked eye. I remember when we were kids and we had to watch those solar eclipses, and it was really cool to get those glasses and or little paper shades and look up into the sky. So here's a powerful metaphor for speakers. Even when the light seems blocked, the moon doesn't lose its brilliance. It simply shines differently. And I could say that for us as humans. We all bring something to the table, to the sky, or wherever the space is that we all inhabit. And we may all do it authentically and a little different. So here's to solar eclipse and lunar eclipse, something unique.
Very
Back to
good.
you.
And part of the mechanics that makes that work is the sun is 400 times larger than the moon, but the moon is 400 times further away than the sun. So they're like a
Wow.
perfect match when they go cross one another to take away that sunlight or the reflection
Thank you
on
for
the earth.
sharing that. Oh my goodness, I've learned a lot. And even though the sun and the moon are probably real old, they're not antiquated. Back to you again.
Native Americans had lots of stories about the sun and the moon, and there's some very famous stories about the sun and the moon being lovers and how one goes after the other, and you can see it with the changes in the moon. But that's another story. We have time for any more table topics? Yes, no?
Maybe
Okay.
one more quick one.
Okay. There's another holiday coming up in March, and that has to do with leprechauns. Who knows anything about St. Patty's Day?
Andy, I think our
Johnny.
guest Simmer had raised her hand, so we will
Okay,
always allow our guests the opportunity to speak, right?
absolutely. Thank you, Simmer. Tell me about St. Patty's Day and your experience with that. You have to unmute.
Unmute, yes. Hold on. Hello, everyone. Yes, this is, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I don't know much more about in details, but I would give you some insight on this, about my knowledge about St. Patrick Days. We often, it's when we think of this holiday like St. Patrick Day, we often picture floral, like green hats. I remember dressing up when I was working in one of my credit union that we celebrated St. Patrick Day. So this is what I would take it as. Some might say those stories are antiquated. I'm talking about my previous experience, old legends from another times. But what is interesting in that, even antiquated carry meanings. So that remind us culture, imagination, and the human need for the hope. I believe this is what it is. The St. Patrick Days. Um, I would say what is more interesting is that even antiquated stories carrying meaning. As I mentioned, that it's about the culture, it's about hope, it's imagination. Maybe it's represent perseverance, belief, as Jenny was talking about earlier, the lessons we learned from our daily leadership, even when the odds seem magical. So I believe this is what it is more about the St. Patrick Days, about my experience, that what I did in my when I was working. But from I think it's been 2 years now that I personally didn't celebrate that day. But yeah, it's just the old memories.
Very good. Thank you very much. And for those that are living in the Chicago area, one of the things that Chicago always does during St. Patty's Day is they put dye in their river. And so as you look and cross the bridges in Chicago, all of the water is turned green for St. Patty's Day.
Mm-hmm.
And I turn it back to you, Toastmaster, to turn it over to the General Evaluator.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master Andy. And before I do that, I'm experiencing some internet issues myself, so I may have to continue the meeting. There we are on my smartphone. I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. Before I do that, though, please let me welcome our General Evaluator, who is going to provide the rest of the meeting, Graham Cairns. Take it away, Graham.
Thank you, Toastmaster Jim. Just before I get started, can I get the timekeeper to put the times for the table topics into the chat so that the vote counter can set up the table topics vote so that we can vote?
There, Graham.
Is there now? Good-o. All right. And also, before I begin my role as General Evaluator, I forgot to use the word antiquated during my table topic. Whoops, naughty me. So I want to tell you that my shirt is antiquated, but it's also 21st century. It's actually a Scrubs style shirt. I don't know whether you can see that, no, you probably can't. But, I can put my hands in my pockets of the shirt down there, which is very much 21st century. But the artwork on it features Australian Aboriginal dot painting, which is officially about 50 years old. The stories represented by this artwork, on the other hand, are from the Dreaming. And they are stories that are up to 50 or 60,000 years old, so very antiquated. I just thought I'd mention that in case you were wondering why I was wearing scrubs to a Toastmasters meeting. Now, I am the General Evaluator. My job is to introduce all of those people who are going to be providing us with feedback for the various events that happen during the meeting. And one of those things that I'm going to be seeking is evaluation of the prepared speeches. I have an agenda. It is hiding here. And on the agenda, that tells me that our first evaluator is Joni Renee Laidlaw. Now, Joni Renee, you were evaluating tonight our icebreaker speech. So can I please ask for a period of 2 to 3 minutes if you can provide some feedback to our very newest member. Please welcome Joni.
Thank you, Graham. Hands up, or virtual hand, if we learned something today that we did not know about Jenny, at least one piece of information. 2 pieces of information. You had an excellent presentation. Now, they always say pictures or it didn't happen. And I know a lot of people here are happy that they're antiquated, which was before social media. So when they were dumb and stupid, there was no record of the things that they did. Unfortunately, I grew up in the time of social media, so most of my dumb and stupid is out there. So it's always good to have a counter record as well, so we can balance it out. I love the pictures. I love seeing your family. I love seeing where you came from, the images. It helps to connect. A lot of projection comes from, though we try to use descriptive language, it might not be as effective, but a picture is worth 1,000 words. So in addition to the great speech, the visuals were enhanced as well. I loved your content. I loved the information. I loved your pace and your tone. Now, I always say I have an accent too, so I can say this, but you have an accent. And a lot of the times when we're speaking with an accent, sometimes people just can't follow. But guess what? I followed you totally, completely, and I was not lost. And you didn't even have to speak slowly so my mind would wander off. I could stay focused to hear everything that you said, and that was absolutely Excellent. How would I suggest that you improve your presentation? Well, one, test before you start. If you had tested before you started, you would have put it into slideshow mode. And then when you shared, we would actually see the slideshow mode as opposed to the entire slides, which makes it easier and would have you starting at the beginning, which makes it look a lot more nice when you're presenting, not as antiquated, like we don't know how to do the PowerPoint thing, which you can't really fix once you've started presenting. Believe me, I know we've been there. The other thing I'm going to suggest is remember the camera. You're talking to us here. You spent most of your time like this. And when you're doing this, I'm not getting eye contact. Now, I know that you're reading, but if you put it somewhere we can see it, then this is what I'll be able to actually see you looking at us as opposed to you looking up when you're presenting. Overall, though, it was an excellent presentation. I know that you're a Toastmaster and you've done this before, but the first time you hear someone present, it's always astounding, amazing to get in contact, to get to know them for the first time. Thank you for letting us get to know you, and I look forward to learning more about you and seeing how we can relate when it comes to parenting. I have a boy, you have girls, you might have different tips. Back to you, our general evaluator.
Thank you, Joni, and thank you for that masterful evaluation of Yenny. Yenny has girls, you've got boys, I've got one of each. I've got to tell you, neither are easier than the other. They each have their own challenges. Mind you, mine are also 46 and 44, so what do I know? I don't have to worry about them anymore. You never do stop, though. Our second evaluator tonight is Kritika Devi Venkataram. Now, Kritika is going to be evaluating the somewhat truncated, restarted, and reshaped single point of origin story from, or single point of information at least, story from David Carr. So, Kritika, can you please give your evaluation, again with a time of 2 to 3 minutes? Thank you, Kritika Devi Venkataram.
Thank you, Toastmaster Graham. Well done, David. A single source of truth. You started slowly as a business conversation, a casual conversation for a non-technical audience. You slowly moved in like a pollen filled in the petal from the center point of your source of truth to different parts of speech where you showed the book you have written, you have showed the website that you have developed, you showed the web application that is useful to our Toastmasters Club, and as an app developer, your contribution towards the club. What struck me here during your speech that gets me into a new genre of speech, it's the speculative technology. Technology is no more a trend, it's like in live right now, and your speech gives me that aspect. The genre is newly invented through your speech. Your introduction of the speech took a minute, not explaining what you are going to speak. Though there was a kind of suspense in what is your agenda of your speech and where it is going to take us. Though there was a hand gesture intrusion and the book that you have showed us close to your face, it was quite evident that you have formed a petal structure in your speech. It was quite evident. And the takeaway from your speech involved your contribution, your commitment to your day-to-day life, your minutes of commitment and the minutes of pouring yourself into the technology space as well as into the leadership space where you wanted to move forward. This single source of truth is always nurturing every one of us, and you gave that inspiration, though there was a technological breakdown during your speech. It was wonderful, and it would have been better when you have used the hand gesture and your technology a bit more wisely. And that's all for your speech that I have for you. Over to you, General Evaluator Grant.
Thank you, Evaluator Kritika. Can I get the timing for both of those evaluations, please, Annie? Or if you can put them in the chat, that would be fine. That will allow David then to set up the voting for the best evaluator. And again, you can vote, or everybody can vote for best evaluator. So there's your opportunity. When the link comes up, click on it. There it is. Woot.
Yeah. Yes, Joni was 3 minutes and 18 and Kritika was 2 minutes 29, so both in time.
Both are perfectly within the time allocated to them. So I thank you both for that. I thank you, Annie, for your role as timekeeper. And I thank you, David, for setting up the vote. Please go and vote. Vote early, vote often. No, sorry, we're not supposed to say that. Let's move on to the functionary reports, and we'll start with the grammarian's report. And our grammarian is, again, she's back. Kritika, you have been watching to see who used the word of the night, but also who had flights of fancy and depths of depravity with their language tonight.
Thank you, Graham. Your just said phrase is a good example of usage of English grammar. Then, I would like to mention few words which has been used properly by people over the meeting. It's like forensic, your breath, formal language, formal knowledge, hunting through pathways. And these words and phrases were good usages. They also have a better way of conveying the message. It also involves certain sentences which I would like to quote that were used properly during this meeting. It was from Jim. People think of me when they think of antiquated. It was quite funny, humorous, and it also involved a good usage of the environment or the current situation. The second one is from David, who said transporter being interrupted by ion. It might be technical for somebody, but it's a great usage of word. And during the table topic section, I would suggest everyone to watch Graham's answer. It was a good example of structuring an ad hoc speech where the exact phrasing of words as well as the sentence formation with the start and end giving a complete way of hand-holding, weaving it as a meticulous thread was done during his delivery. I urge everyone to watch again his complete table topics. And this is my observation for today. Over to you, Graham.
Thank you, Kritika. I have to say, my face is going the same color as my top. I'm blushing. Thank you for that. Let's move on to other ancillary roles. We've heard from the grammarian. Let's now hear from the watcher. And tonight's watcher, and watcher is a role that is not exclusive to this club. I think a couple of others have picked it up from us, but to tell us how we did in terms of visual presentation, Ali Blakeman.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. So everyone did a phenomenal job centered on CAM. David, I especially love your background because it's always helpful when the speaker's background matches some context of your speech. The only nuance that I saw was myself, and Toastmaster Zaz decided to stand in front of me, as you can see from my image, and stare at me in the face, telling me that it is way past 5 o'clock and I should not be at my desk. But other than that, everyone did a phenomenal job being on cam, being center and in focus. So back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Ali. And thank you, Zaz, for telling Ali that they should not be sitting at the desk. They should be going somewhere else by now, even if it is a Toastmasters meeting. Yeah, fabulous. All right, so from the grammarian and the watcher, now the role that none of us like, the R counter. Who was counting our ums and ahs? That'd be Sherry Blake.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I didn't hear a lot. And typically when that happens, I'm wondering if I'm listening well. But David Carr, he had a few ums. He also had an it is. Kurtika had a couple of ahs. And Jenny had a few ums. And she used the word and a lot. And I felt that if she would have dropped the and, everything would have flowed nicely. it would have still flowed nicely without having the ands or the excessive ands in her talk. But back to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sherry, for that. There's one more role that I'm going to call upon now, and that is the chat monitor. And our chat monitor tonight is Sunny.
Thank you, sir, Mr. General Evaluator. A couple of funny things, useful as well as just chit chat. One of the first things that I do see in the chat, General Evaluator Graham did explain to us about his shirt and why he was wearing it. And he just also said something about it being fashionable, even if it's antiquated. Another thing that came about was in the chat, tip of the day, Andrew Burns shared a lot about AI music tools, and there was several conversations about whether people had a favorite art tool or music tool. And there were compliments about, wow, you own the rights to this music. That is really cool. So good for you, Graham. Kurtika also shared that 11 Labs is something that she likes to listen to, and it's prominent in the field. I haven't tried that one, by the way, but I would like to. Also, Joni talked about the Chinese New Year in Jamaica. I didn't really know that they had Chinese New Year's in your neck of the woods. So thanks for sharing that. And other than that, there were congratulations for Jenny's speech, as well as interest in David's single source of truth, I believe. So don't forget, if you would like to read any of this later, to go and click on the three dots, guest, if you didn't know it, at the three dots at the top of the chat, and it will go into your documents folder. That's all I have for today, and I thank you very much. Back to you.
Thanks, Sunny, for that chat monitor report. As general evaluator, I'm supposed to make a comment on the evaluators and perhaps on the general meeting. Won't have time because we've only got 2 minutes left before we run out of time. That would be my one observation. We might like to consider that when we do have 2 or, God help us, 3 speeches in a night, then we may need to look at other ways to reduce the time on things like table topics or the functionary reports. On that note, I'll call for the vote counter to announce the results of tonight's votes for best table topics and best evaluator. David, drum roll, please.
Drum roll, please. And here comes our winners for table topics. Grab hands.
Yay.
For best evaluator, Kritika. Thank you, Kritika. And of course, we do have to honor our icebreaker, Jenny Hagala. Great start. Look forward to many more speeches from you, Jenny.
Thank you, Mr. Vote Counter. Now, unless you particularly want me to return to you, David, Jim. Otherwise, I'll hand straight to the president for guest comments. All right, I'll hand straight to our president, Joni, for guest comments.
Thank you so much, Graham. And you know what? Your general evaluation comments was some good advice for our Vice President of Education. With that, though, I will be adjourning our meeting.